All right, all right, all right. It is Tuesday. It is Tuesday, and it is stacking up time. I am Vince D'Addario. I am the football analyst here at IrishBreakdown.com. And with me, as always, is that guy right there. That's Brian Driscoll. He is the publisher at IrishBreakdown.com. And we are going to talk today. We're kind of back to our regular schedule. We called a couple of audibles last week because it was Navy, and
I didn't want to talk about the option.
It's Navy. I mean, that's really all there is to it.
Yeah.
But we're back to Virginia and a regular offense and
regular defense.
I would say a regular defense, but I mean that might be pushing the envelope a little
regular
bit.
For what Notre Dame's facing the last 6 games of the season.
Wow. But we're going to talk Notre Dame's offense versus Virginia's defense today, and how they stack up, and that's why this show is called Stacking Up. And some interesting observations by you on this defense as we were texting back and forth this morning, talking about the show and basically who this defense is and how they're allowed to play Division I football. Basically, is how
it's really bad. I mean, I was texting with you and a friend of mine earlier, and I don't understand what's going on in the ACC right now. It's like they're trying to, like, they looked and saw what happened to the Big 12 and said, yeah, those teams constantly get killed when they go out of conference because they can't stop anybody. But man, it sure is fun. Let's try that. I mean, that's really what the ACC is becoming outside of what Clemson. BC tries to play good defense. Outside of Clemson and BC, I don't know anyone in the ACC that really tries to play good defense right now.
Yeah.
But just off the top of my head, I mean, they're bad. I mean, North Carolina is recruiting some really good defensive players, some highly ranked guys, and their defense is atrocious.
Right.
Virginia can't use that excuse. They're not only poorly, just the plan isn't great. They don't have a ton of talent either.
Right.
And that's what makes them.
I think I have more of an issue with the plan. I mean, I get that they don't have a ton of talent, but at the same time, I don't feel like they're putting their guys in position to be successful. Very much.
And it's a combination of that plus they don't have a lot of good players. And like I'm watching a BYU game and I'm just like, BYU's guys are just way better than them, and the combination of that and what they're doing defensively, which we'll get into, are just really puzzling. You look at Virginia, they're giving up 30.8 points per game. That includes a blowout over a 43-0 blowout of an FCS team.
Helps.
You take that out, they're giving up 34.6 points per game, and then they shut out Duke, whose offense is just atrocious. I mean, Duke scored 7 points on Wake Forest. They scored 7 points on North Carolina. Those aren't exactly juggernaut defenses.
Right, exactly.
And they're you take those away, they're giving up almost 40 points per game. I mean, this is what Virginia's done, right? They gave up 14 points to Illinois. Started off well. Illinois' offense, as we've come to find out, it's not very good. They gave up 59 to North Carolina, 37 to Wake Forest, 28 to Miami, and Miami missed several scoring opportunities in that game, including a potential game-winning field goal that bounced off the upright, 33 to Louisville, 40 to Georgia Tech, and 66 to Brigham Young.
Yeah, that was...
They're giving up 30 points a game despite having 2 shutouts. Think about that.
Says it all right there.
If
you know anything about
math, shutouts.
That's really not good.
So they're not good. So back to this matchup. This is one of those games where you're also facing an offense in Virginia that can score, because here's what they've done offensively: 43, 42, 39, 17, 30, 34, 48, 48, and 49. Right? So the reason we mentioned their offense in this matchup is because, yes, their defense stinks, but this is not a game you want to go out and score 27 to 34 points, right? Navy's defense wasn't very good. They only scored 34 points. USC's defenses wasn't very good. They only scored 31 points. That may not be enough against this Virginia offense, because you can play good defense against Virginia and give up 27 to 34 points.
Sure.
They've got assuming Brennan Armstrong plays. And the way we're going to prepare for this week is we're going to prepare that Brennan Armstrong's going to play. Because if he doesn't play, this game is going to be a blowout, or should be a blowout. I mean, it shouldn't be close. Because Brennan Armstrong is Virginia football right now. I mean,
he is. I agree with you.
He is Virginia football right now.
Do you think either way he's going to be 100% though?
But I don't think he has to be 100% to win the game. I mean, you look at what I was just talking with a friend of mine earlier about, we were talking about, the 2018 season and Ian Book and some of those kind of things. And you look back to, when Ian Book got injured and then came back, he wasn't quite the same player, but they still scored 36 points and he still made some throws against Syracuse and, made some big time plays against USC in that game. And, but the way that they run the offense, they can maneuver that offense to take away some of the running he does, maybe some of the shots that they submit him to in games with some of the deeper drops. They can eliminate some of that stuff to protect him.
Yeah.
But the point being is we're going to assume that he is able to play and be healthy, right? Healthy enough to play.
And that's
what
you should assume. Absolutely.
Correct. And that's what Notre Dame should do.
Yes.
So you prepare for Brendan Armstrong, because then if it's one of the other two quarterbacks, it's no problem. So you've got to be prepared to come out and be aggressive, start fast, score early, and really take the fight to Virginia. That has to be your game plan if you're Notre Dame.
No question about it. And that's Notre Dame's offense. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Notre Dame's offense, right, versus this defense. And they just need to do what they do. You don't need to do anything special. You're going to be breaking in some new guys at some new spots a little bit more often than they're normally there, right? And so I don't want to see Notre Dame get cute. I just want to see them run. I want tempo. I always want tempo with this team, no question. I want tempo, and if you watch any kind of Virginia film, teams that go tempo on them, they struggle. They struggle, and they get tired very quickly, and because
they're a big defensive line. Like they're a really big physical defensive line.
Right. And they get tired quickly. And if they can't sub those guys out, that spells, doom for this defense.
And their second and third level players look like they get tired easily too, but they're actually just slow.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. There you go.
Like, I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. I mean, it's just, they're just slow. Absolutely. They look like they're laboring, but you can see that in the first quarter. I mean, I'm watching the Louisville game today, and they're, it's funny. So let's kind of dive into what Virginia does defensively, because I'm going to point out something which I thought was kind of funny when I was breaking Virginia down. So you talk about kind of what their base defense is. Virginia kind of has, they're a little schizophrenic in how they align. And here's an example. So here, Louisville is in basically a 2 tight end type of offense, right? You've got one tight end here is attached right here, as you can see. The other, there's another guy right here that's a tight end, right? And then you have the quarterback and the running back. Well, in that look, Virginia sort of goes to sort of a traditional look. It's not a 4 down. They're still in their odd front, odd being 3-man front. But then you look at it, they're in 5 techniques at defensive end. They had a nose tackle right over the nose, right? That's an odd front. Then they walk up sort of their outside linebacker hybrid kind of player, and they're in a 4 down look, and they got 2 linebackers and the corners playing up, and it looks like a traditional defense, right? And then you say, okay, well that's kind of what they do. And when they line up like this, they're actually pretty decent. Mm-hmm. And this is what confuses me about what they do. This is when they're at their best, is when they can kind of get their big boys on the field and be a bit physical. Well, the next play, Louisville comes out and lines up like this. Let me get this a little. Louisville comes out like this, and they spread the field, and then this is what Virginia goes to. And this is what we see more often than not. Anytime a team does any kind of 11 personnel, anytime they do anything like that, this is what Virginia goes to. Because you had asked me, are they a 3-2-5, 3-2-6 defense? And I was like, well, a lot of times that's what it looks like. Yeah. And this is my big fear against Notre Dame is if Notre Dame comes out in a lot of 12 personnel, we're going to get this.
Show the forefront,
and that's when Virginia is at their best.
Right.
When you come out with some of this kind of stuff, they're not good. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is when they're at their best against the run. This is not when they're at their best against the pass. Do you remember what happened on this play, Vince?
I do not.
It scored a 92-yard touchdown. They ran a play-action pass and just threw it over the top because they're just not athletic. But against the run, this gives them their best chance. When they go to this look, they can't stop anything. And that's what's so confusing about what they do schematically. It's like, you don't stop anybody doing this, right? It's at least when you do this, you have a chance to make teams a little bit one-dimensional, right? You can force teams to throw the ball. So it's really puzzling, some of the things that they do schematically, because they're just not – they don't have the athletes, in my opinion, to do this. And if you're an offensive coach, and you've got ways to get Virginia into this look, you need to take every advantage you can, right? Because they're just not good.
Well, and obviously, with 5 offensive linemen you can run against this look, right? Because, and even Notre Dame's line can run against this look because it's 5-on-3. And, if you're down blocking and you're doing some different things and you've got a guy like Kyron Williams or Logan or any of the running backs, I'm not even going to pick one because I saw, what did I watch? Earlier today, I was watching the Wake Forest game against Virginia. They had 3 running backs that they played and they just rotated them one series, then the next series, then the next series. And all 3 of them had success. And most of the time they were running into a 5-man box just like this. And they had a ton of success. They weren't even throwing the ball all that much. And Wake Forest is known for throwing the football, right? I mean, they're balanced, but they're known more for throwing the football than they are running the football. And they ran down Virginia's throat. And it was embarrassing. Like even the announcers were like, they're averaging like 7 yards a carry. I mean, so if Notre Dame can get them into this look, they're still going to run the football and they're still going to be really good running the football against this. And I will also say that Wake Forest was pretty much, and I texted you this, it just felt like they were kind of flipping through the playbook and like blindly just picking a play.
Mm-hmm.
And they would,
which is kind of what their offense looks like.
Yeah.
That's what makes it kind of difficult is you just don't know what's coming at you.
Right.
But but to your point, to finish your thought, what you said to me in the text was it all worked.
It all worked. I mean, they were doing whatever they wanted and it didn't matter. It didn't feel like Wake Forest had a rhyme or a reason to what they were doing, but everything they were doing was working. So, again, Wake Forest is a good team. They're a good ACC team. So take that for what you want on that. But they are light years ahead of where Virginia was on their defensive side of the football.
In that matchup, yes.
In that matchup,
yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And that was one of the few times we saw Virginia be vulnerable. They turned the ball over a little bit and some things like that. But so defensively, Vince, that's kind of where they are. They're a 3-down team that's got 3 big physical defensive linemen. But, at this point in time, they just don't have, in my opinion, the athletes to match up with Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm coming from, is why this is a matchup Notre Dame needs to dominate. I mean,
absolutely.
There's no excuse not to just roll this team. I mean, again, let me just go over this one more time so that way we can remind you. This is their last 7 games, 59 points allowed against North Carolina. 37 points allowed against Wake Forest, 28 points allowed against Miami, 33 points allowed against Louisville. Hold on, I went to Duke there real quick. 0 points against Duke, who stinks, 40 points against Georgia Tech, and 66 points against BYU. I mean, they gave up, listen, in 3 of their last 4 games, they've given up at least 503 yards of offense and at least 7.3 yards per play. Louisville went for 503. Georgia Tech went for 570. BYU went for 734.
Oh my gosh.
Louisville and Georgia Tech both have losing records. They're not good teams. They're not great offenses. Louisville's only averaging 28 points a game this year, and Georgia Tech's only averaging 28. Well, they're both averaging 28.8 and 28.7. These aren't juggernaut offenses.
Right, exactly.
And so it's not like, of course they gave up a lot of points. Those teams are really good offensively. No, they're not. And
No, they're not.
They are. I mean, Louisville ranks 7th in the ACC in total offense, and Georgia Tech ranks 10th in total offense.
Right.
But they shredded Virginia.
Right.
So this is a matchup Notre Dame has to thrive in, and they should. Absolutely. And as we kind of dive into it, Vince, this is a matchup that Notre Dame should perform well. This is a matchup they should play well, and we're going to dive into why that is the case, and just exactly how Notre Dame stacks up.